Everyone, I'm Jessica, and today it's another exciting chat about solo stuff. I wanted to go through some of my favorite unofficial solo variants, including some of the games that actually got me into playing solo through unofficial variants. Cool topic? Let's dive in. So when I first started playing solo, I came across an unofficial variant for, it's a large box, give me 1 second, Alhambra big box. And this is a little bit of an older game. Awesome game though, and I have the big box, which includes 20 different modules that can be kind of added or mixed or matched to totally customize the experience. And it's a tile laying game where you're creating the Alhambra. There's different types of tiles that are going out there, and you also have a wall that's being created around the exterior. So this is not officially solo supported. So I came across one very early on because, again, at this point I had a huge box, couldn't really play it multiplayer, so I said, let me find a way to make this work. And I think I was really fortunate in coming across this solo variant at the time that I did, because it showed me that playing solo wasn't just a beat your own score experience, which can be great, by the way, but this introduced kind of a secondary solo opponent who would be taking tiles based on some decisions I made. So there was this whole idea that I could be playing focused on my strategy, but I was still competing against granted, it wasn't a human opponent, but it was somebody who acted like a human player would. Plus, my decisions had some impact on what happened. It wasn't just 100% random. Plus, with all those different modules in Alhambra, that solo variant, which I will link to in the description, actually includes rules for every module to play solo. It's recommended. You only do up to maybe 2 or 3 maximum. So I played through each one, saw that there were all these different ways to play with these modules and solo, and then I went for it. I ignored the rule and I played with all 20 at once. Absolute chaos. Definitely not a recommended way to play, but it was still very cool just to see that all that stuff coming together, being kind of broken, but at the same time being able to see everything in play. So Alhambra was sort of my introduction to unofficial solo variants, and it was awesome. So after I played Alhambra, I went looking for some other solo variants, and I came across a Thurn and Taxis solo variant. By the way, this box cover, best box cover ever. I would like to say where am I here? Down here. This is my reaction every time there's a Kickstarter delivery. It needs fanfare like this, all right? That's the only way to get board game deliveries. But the solo variant, the unofficial solo variant for Thurn and Taxis, because again, where can I find it? Does it say it? Boop, on the box, 2 to 4 players, but there's an unofficial variant. So what does this one do? This one introduced me to a rule set that really changed how the core game works. So with this unofficial solo variant, this is a beat your own score experience, but it turns the whole experience into a sort of a puzzle. So rather than playing as a single color and creating those postal routes through these different cities, you actually have to manage all 4 colors. And it's a puzzle to try to get as many of those wooden houses out there as possible, creating postal routes of different lengths and a couple of other objectives. And it's really tricky. This one took me a while. I do think this is one of the few games that I mastered, which just means that I'm pretty good at winning it. But with the caveat that that list of games that I've mastered is so small, I'm just excited this is one of them. And this also includes one of my favorite maps in a board game. Just the artwork is really, really nice. I think this is what I call my cozy game. It's just really, really fun, a really nice puzzle experience, but also very challenging too. And one of my favorite ones that I still play a lot. So building off of that, I think those 2 were the first ones that really got me into playing solo with unofficial variants. Then I played a ton of solo games, got, shelves and shelves all over the place. But another one that I sort of came across in the process, let's grab this one, was actually City of Iron 2nd Edition. This one, again, does not support solo in the box, and it's sort of a city building sort of experience. Sometimes the box backs. It's got really nice artwork and just a very interesting sort of experience that I played multiplayer a couple times and then had no one else to play it with. So I found a solo variant for this one, and again, that was another one that was really interesting, playing against a solo opponent and creating my city, but making a lot of different decisions, kind of cycling through cards and just seeing how that worked. This was another one that I played over and over again. I haven't played it in a while, but this still remains in my collection as one of those games that just worked really nicely, and I love artwork like this, so naturally it stays in the collection, and is just it's also another one that offered a lot of different sort of choices and decisions, but without feeling overcomplicated. And that's one thing that some solo variants can do. They can feel like you have the base game rule set, then you have to learn the solo variant rule set, and then you have to figure out how that all plays together, and it can be a lot. Granted, a lot of those are great and awesome in the end, but this, again, City of Iron, I felt like it changed enough to make it interesting without sort of changing the entire game and making it too much. So what else? Another one that's kind of interesting is Carcassonne, which actually does at this point have an official solo variant, which I have not yet tried, but way back in the day, several years ago, I don't know, I found an unofficial solo variant, which basically is all about just creating a 7x7 grid of these tiles. So you're completing those features in the game. Again, Carcassonne, a lot of people are familiar with it, but it's a tile laying game. You've got cities, you've got roads, you've got other features that you are completing in order to score. So this solo variant is just about creating that map, trying to fill it in with 49 tiles. You have a couple different choices each turn as you have a kind of a hand of tiles to put out there. And it works really nicely because getting that complete map is very difficult because you have to get all of those tiles in the right spots, which is not so easy. But this one's just kind of another quick, easy sort of puzzle that I enjoy just playing through. Lots of awesome unofficial solo variants. Some of the other recent ones I've seen, though, is there's one for actually Piepmatz. And this is sort of a lesser known game, I think. In English, it's Songbirds, I believe. Little Songbirds, sorry, is the name of this one. And in this, it's about birds. And they're kind of going to a bird feeder. There's a few different species, males and females, and they all have different strength values. And this solo variant has those birds sort of going to each side of the feeder, and it's kind of a math equation that's going on each side with addition, and the strongest bird is at the feeder while there's sort of a line of birds on the ground, and the birds on the ground have to get to a certain level so that they are stronger than the one at the feeder to make that bird, get out of here. It's our turn. And this one, it's another kind of a set collection type game. You're getting points for, again, kind of getting matching pairs. And it works really nicely. Again, this one is, I feel like there should be a term, and there probably is, but the solo games where your decisions have a direct impact on what happens to the solo opponent. What I mean by that is some games will have sort of an automa deck that you're drawing from, and it says, do this and this. Whereas some other solo games, what you do can sometimes impact what happens to that solo opponent. So if I take one tile but leave something else out there, that might mean, now that solo opponent's going to take that tile. So I have somewhat of an informed decision on what's going to happen. And this does that really well. Again, it's a pretty quick game, a smaller game. I do like my mixture of gigantic boxes and the smaller ones, just to have a very diverse range of solo games I get to choose from to play whenever I, get them to the table. The number of unplayed games in my collection. insane. It's slowly going down, I think. Let's hope so. Another one that's interesting is Jump Drive. And Jump Drive, you might recognize the box or the art looks a little familiar. This is kind of a lighter version of Race for the Galaxy. Do I know my games? Hopefully. But I say it's lighter, but it still offers a lot of strategy. Just the iconography is a little bit easier to understand, and it's a little bit quicker. So there's a couple of different unofficial variants out there that work, again, really well. This is all those, if you know Race for the Galaxy, it's getting all those cards. You're getting income and victory points at different points in the game. It's a lot of points. I don't know. But it's, it's basically, it's a card-based game. And there are the two variants. I've tried both. There's one that just sort of goes through the game and works as you'd expect, an unofficial solo variant. There's also a campaign mode where you actually play through and have goals to kind of move up through this campaign, which is pretty interesting and really cool. Again, another thing to find in some unofficial solo variants, a campaign. You might come across something like that. There's a lot to discover with unofficial solo variants, which sounds really long. I feel like we need a term for this. I don't know. I need a video to be like, here's the terms that we need. Let's come up with stuff. But a lot of what I'm trying to highlight with this video too is that official solo variants included with games that on the box say 1+ are awesome, but you can also find really, really great ones out there that are unofficial from either fans or other designers who really like the game and just want to make it solo friendly. And I appreciate everybody who does that. The last one that I will talk about is another big box. 1 second. I've talked about this one recently, but this is Tyrants of the Underdark. And this is another one. I'm going to find it. Where is it? 2 to 4 players. You might say, what? Nope, that's another one, unofficial solo variant. Tyrants of the Underdark kind of has a market deck, so you have card-based play. But the big feature about it is that it's an area control game. I'm trying to see. Oh, it does. Box backs are great. There is an area control mechanic that is huge in this one, in controlling different areas for victory points and other bonuses. And that is one of the very tricky mechanics, at least for me. Being able to have area control in a solo game is hard to do. Because a lot of the time, how do you simulate someone actually going to those spaces and acting like a human opponent would? This does it really well. Where is it? The unofficial variant for this works in a way that has a quick sequence, so it's pretty easy to see what these solo opponent's going to do next, so you're not sitting there making decisions for them. There's a couple times where you might have to, but a lot of it is you're focused on yourself. You have some control over what happens with that solo opponent based on what's left in the market deck. So another cool one where you're focused on you, but what you do has an effect on how that experience is going to go. So that is my list of some of my favorite unofficial solo variants. There's a lot more out there. I've tried a lot. You will get the mixture of amazing ones and then ones that maybe not so great. But again, having those out there is really awesome. Just going back to where I started with this video, finding that solo variant for Alhambra, that was kind of what catapulted me into playing solo games. So having that out there was awesome. And I still love just going back and seeing where I started and where I am now with, 5 million games on the shelves. I love playing solo though. So that is about it. If you have any unofficial solo variants that you like, feel free to leave them in the comments. That would be awesome to see what those are and maybe check them out. But as always, thanks so much for watching and stopping by, and take care. Bye.